My best bud from childhood, whom I had an agreement to marry, vowed she'd tie the knot only with that troublemaker sporting dyed blonde locks. At our engagement bash, she threw a major fit, insisting on calling off the deal and tearfully declaring to everyone that real love is priceless. I respected her decision. I called off the engagement and decided to head overseas to manage the family enterprise. She had no clue that being engaged to me was the only way she could stay as the beloved daughter of a rich family. Without our engagement, she'd be left with nothing. Fast forward 3 years, I came back home to grow the family business, and she stormed into my office, pregnant and clinging to me, refusing to let go, crying her heart out. She pleaded, "Ethan, I messed up. Can you take me away?" Is this Emma Hart? I glanced at the pregnant, disheveled woman before me, barely recognizing her. Her face looked worn out, her belly was huge, her hair was dry and blonde, and her skin was rough. She should only be 25, but she looked like she was in her 40s. Was this the same pampered, charming princess of the Hart family? How did she end up like this? Emma had suddenly burst into my office, the security guards behind her powerless to stop her. Seeing me, her face brightened with joy, and she yelled, "Ethan, Ethan, it's me, Emma." She reached out to grab my hand, but I subtly backed away. I asked, "Are you Emma? What do you want from me?" "Ethan, I knew you'd come back. I've been waiting for you forever," she said as she lunged toward me. I frowned and pushed her away, saying, "If you've got something to say, spit it out. If not, just leave. Don't get so close to me." Emma's eyes widened in disbelief. "Ethan, how can you talk to me like this? You weren't like this before." I replied with a blank face, "That was before. Miss Hart, you're now a married woman. Please watch your behavior." But Emma suddenly laughed. "I get it. You're still jelly. Ethan, you're still salty about me ditching the engagement. Did you come back because you missed me too much to resist finding me? Don't hold back. I'm giving you this shot." I was speechless, feeling the blood rush to my forehead. What nonsense was she spouting? It's been 3 years since we called off the engagement. I came back just to handle the family business. What's that got to do with her? Suppressing my feelings, I coldly told her to leave. "Miss Hart, you're mistaken. I've got things to take care of. Please leave right now." I didn't dare have security yank her out, especially with her big belly. She must be 8 or 9 months along. If anything went wrong, could I even continue with the new business plans I started after returning? Suddenly, Emma collapsed to her knees with a thud and started wailing, crying. She clung tightly to my pants. "Ethan, I messed up. Can you take me away?" My frown deepened. These were the pants my girlfriend had just ironed for me that morning. Emma and I were childhood friends. Our family's business ties often pairing us together, both by choice and by chance. In elementary, middle, and high school, we were always in the same class. She was the little princess of the Hart family, and I was the young master of the Lee family. Our classmates and friends always thought we were destined to be together. As a result, Emma became possessive over me, never letting other girls get close. No sitting next to me in class, asking me questions, or sending love letters, all because of her. My relationships with girls were almost non-existent from a young age. Emma was like a proud peacock, always flaunting herself wherever she went. Since my elders told me to look after her, I quietly followed her around. All the girls envied her, having someone like me with such a privileged background silently protecting her. But if you ask me if I liked her, at first, I wouldn't say I did. Growing up in my family, business marriages were inevitable. So who cared who you married, right? Later, as we spent more time together and things got more intense, I did start to develop feelings for her. I thought we were meant to be together forever, and our parents had arranged our engagement early on. In college, Emma and I finally drifted apart since she didn't do well enough in the entrance exams to get into my school, until we were about to get engaged. Emma brought a troublemaker home. Mr. Hart sat at the head of the table, his face turning pale with rage. He questioned her. "Emma, say that again." I want to break off the engagement with Ethan, I said. Emma gripped the thug's hand and stiffened her neck. No way! Mr. Hart slammed his hand on the table, shouting, What nonsense are you talking about? And who's this loser you're bringing into our house? Get him out! He's not a loser. He's my boyfriend. I want to be with him. I don't want to be engaged to Ethan. The thug was eyeing the Hart family mansion greedily, his eyes almost popping out. He chuckled and said, Father-in-law, mother-in-law, Taylor and I are in love freely. Arranged marriages like yours are so old-fashioned and pointless. Right, baby. After saying that, he wrapped his arm around Emma and kissed her on the lips. You're right, bro, Emma squealed, leaning into the thug's arms. I shivered. In all the years I knew Emma, I'd never heard her talk like that. Mrs. Hart, seeing the thug's yellow teeth, was about to faint, but she still tried to reason. Emma, stop this nonsense. Ethan is still here. You know this is impossible. You and Ethan are supposed to get engaged in 3 days. The invites are already out. If you break off now, what about our families? I don't care, Emma screamed petulantly. I don't want to be a pawn for your profits. I want to choose my own man. I couldn't hold back any longer and spoke up. Emma, is this really your idea of a good man? I don't get it. How am I, Ethan, inferior to him? I've never treated you badly since we were kids. What do you know? Emma said smugly, clutching the thug's arm. You only have that filthy money. Without the Lee family, what would you be? Ethan, every gift you give me is just those flashy big brands with no originality. But Ryu is different. He's so sweet to me. He makes salad for me with his own hands, washes my feet, and uses his last penny to buy me candy. No matter how chill I usually am, I couldn't keep it together anymore. Uncle Hart, I stood up, showing my displeasure. Since Emma doesn't want this, I'll go back and tell my parents we should cancel the engagement. We can't force her after all. At least you have some sense. Emma lifted her chin haughtily, but Mr. Hart panicked and quickly stopped me. Ethan, Emma is just too naive. She's been tricked. You should go home for now, and we'll teach her a lesson. The engagement will definitely happen in 3 days. No, Uncle Hart. I can't go through with the engagement under these circumstances. It doesn't feel right to me. Seriously, who wouldn't be upset seeing their fiancé kissing a thug right in front of them? This is just blatant cheating. The only reason I didn't react more strongly was because I still cared about our family's relationship. Anyone else might have gone physical by now. Mr. Hart stood up and quickly walked over to me, speaking softly. Please, give Uncle Hart some face. This time, it's the Hart family that messed up. I know you're a reasonable guy. The South City project, this time, the Hart family can let the Lee family have it directly. Whoa, he was really willing to pay the price. That project was estimated to earn tens of millions, and more importantly, South City was a key area for government development. Gaining an early advantage there wasn't easy. Although the Lee family was stronger than the Hart family, most of our assets were overseas. For domestic projects, we sometimes needed the Hart family to connect us with the right people, which was why our families were considering marriage in the first place. The Hart family was attracted to the Lee family's scale and assets, while the Lee family valued the Hart family's connections and domestic network. It was a win-win. Internally, I was thrilled. The Lee family had been eyeing the South City project for a while, but on the surface, I acted conflicted. Uncle Hart, I still need to discuss this with my parents. After all, having an incident before the engagement, if Emma and I don't get along in the future, it will surely affect our family's relationship. Of course, Mr. Hart said awkwardly. When I got home, I told my parents the whole story. It was so ridiculous I couldn't help but laugh while recounting it. Before my dad could say anything, my mom shouted, No, absolutely not, I don't agree. Do they really think a project is worth putting a green hat on my son? How delusional. Do they think the Lee family lacks money? We already have a good chance with the South City project. We don't need their handouts. As she spoke, my mom exploded like a firecracker. I've said from the beginning I didn't like Emma, but your dad kept saying I was just a picky mother-in-law. That girl was rude from the start, loud and ill-mannered, no grace at all. Honey. My dad quickly tried to calm her down. Don't get upset. We should hear what Ethan thinks. What if he actually likes Emma? But my mom slapped him on the back and asked, "What do you mean? Are you saying my son has bad taste?" My dad covered his face, unable to find words to defend himself. Watching them, some of the anger in me began to fade. "Dad, Mom," I called out, knocking on the table as I thought for a moment. Then I said, "I've spent the most time with Emma, so I know her better than anyone. This marriage is definitely not happening. But this is also an opportunity for the Lee family." My parents' eyes widened as they listened to me. "To be honest, I can't swallow this humiliation after how Emma has treated me. I'm going to make the Hart family give up even more." My eyes turned cold. Since the daughter of the Hart family made her choice, she shouldn't blame me for being ruthless. This marriage might not happen, but the one to call it off can't be the Lee family. I then laid out my plan for them, instructing them to cooperate fully. Look at our son, and then look at yourselves." My mom tugged at my dad's ear, scolding him. "You're 40 and still not as capable as your 20-year-old son." My dad, though in pain, proudly said, "That's right, he's my son. I must have passed all my brains to him." I smiled helplessly, knowing they were arguing like this just to lighten my mood. After all, my dad had taken over the Lee family nearly 10 years ago and had led the family business to great success. How could he be considered incapable? 3 days later, at the banquet hall of the Grand Sky Hotel, Uncle Hart and I greeted each other while shaking hands with Mr. Hart. Looking at Emma beside him, I asked, "Are you sure Emma is here of her own free will today?" Mr. Hart let out an awkward laugh, while Emma turned her face away, saying nothing. "Does she even dare to comply?" A flash of ruthlessness crossed Mr. Hart's eyes as he said, "This is the only thing she's good for, Ethan. 2 years ago, when you pleaded for this rebellious girl, Uncle Hart knew you were a man of loyalty and righteousness. From now on, Uncle Hart will treat you like my own son, Mr. Lee." Mr. Hart changed the subject, but I just smiled and stayed silent. The banquet hall filled with more people, prominent figures from Yen City and representatives of various families. Many came up to toast me, and I smiled and raised my glass to everyone. Even my best friend, Mike, came over with a face full of schadenfreude to tease me. "Man, I didn't expect you to be so young and already stepping into the grave of marriage." I shot him a look and said, "Stop talking nonsense. It's just an engagement. Still, that means you're off the market." He said as he clinked his glass with mine, "From now on, you just watch while I enjoy life." I clinked his glass back and replied lightly, "Not necessarily." At that moment, the host took the stage and after saying a bunch of congratulatory words, finally got to the main point. "Let's welcome the stars of today, Mr. Ethan and Miss Emma." I walked up to the stage with her, the host continued. "Today, everyone here is gathered to witness the engagement ceremony of these two. You've all given your blessings. Do either of you have anything you'd like to say?" Before I could take the microphone, Emma suddenly grabbed it and said, "I, Emma, refuse to get engaged to Ethan." The room erupted into chaos with guests whispering to one another. "Emma, what are you saying?" My parents stood up from their seats, their faces pale with anger. Mr. Hart quickly turned around, bowing and apologizing. In-laws, in-laws. Emma is just being impulsive. She was only joking." "I'm not joking." Emma screamed loudly, and I quickly stepped a few paces away from her. "My parents forced me to come. I don't love Ethan at all. I love Ryu. You all are fools. You're only about money and profits. You'll never understand the pure love between Ryu and me." I mentally applauded her. Her fighting spirit was impressive, insulting all the high-ranking people in Yen City in one go. Now, even if the Hart family wanted to secure the South City project, there was no way they could. I thought the drama would end there. But to my surprise, Emma, biting her lip and stomping her foot, dropped another bombshell. "I'm already pregnant with Ryu's child." At that moment, the large screen behind us conveniently displayed a pregnancy test report with Emma's name clearly on it. "I came here today to tell all you money-grubbing people that true love is priceless." Immediately, there was a loud thud as Mrs. Hart fainted on the spot. The scene turned into a frenzy. I turned to Emma and said, "Look, you made your mom faint." Emma was completely indifferent. "She deserves it for forcing me to marry you. Just hope you won't regret this later." I said this with a meaningful tone, and while she wasn't paying attention, I took the microphone from her hand. "Everyone, please stay calm. The ambulance is on its way. I apologize for the spectacle today. Ethan sincerely asks for forgiveness from all our relatives and friends. Given the current situation, it's unfortunate that the engagement between the Lee and Hart families can no longer proceed. Ethan can only wish Miss Hart happiness in the future." The Hart family had already made a laughingstock today. So naturally, it was up to us, the Lee family, to show some grace and dignity. Sure enough, after I calmly delivered those words, the way people looked at me changed. Even Mr. Hart gave me a look of gratitude. They probably thought a young guy like me, faced with this situation, would be so humiliated I'd lose control. Maybe even if I had started beating Emma, some people might have understood. But what would be the outcome? We'd both become jokes, or people might see me as a reckless youth. Enduring the humiliation would accomplish nothing. I smirked slightly. Now let's see how the Hart family compensates me for my emotional distress. I hope they show some sincerity. As expected, after the fallout, the Hart family ended up compensating the Lee family with 5 projects. Mr. Hart's face twitched with pain as he signed them over. I pretended not to notice. Emma, on the other hand, was kicked out of the Hart family. What she didn't know was she should have been thrown out 2 years ago. It was only because of my long-standing relationship with her that I persuaded Mr. and Mrs. Hart to keep her, reminding them that she and I were still engaged. 2 years ago, they discovered that Emma was not their biological daughter. She had been switched at birth by Mr. Hart's secretary. Unlike in novels, bloodlines are super important to wealthy families. The Hart family had only one daughter, and even when we got engaged, there was an agreement that one of our future kids would carry on the Hart family name, or else the Hart family line would end. So, when they found out Emma wasn't their biological daughter, they were ready to kick her out without hesitation. And then, even though they hadn't yet found their real daughter, it was I who suggested we keep the engagement. After all, the Lee and Hart families still needed to cooperate. That way, even if they found their real daughter later, she could stay with them, and they could bring in a son-in-law. The Hart family was wealthy enough that raising an extra daughter wouldn't be a burden. So Emma had been kept in the dark, not knowing any of this. I bet if she had known, she wouldn't have dared to cause such a scene. Previously, she only acted out because she believed she was the sole heir of the Hart family, thinking that no matter what, Mr. and Mrs. Hart wouldn't abandon her. Damn. I met up with Mike for a drink, and the first thing he did when he saw me was swear. "Ethan, good thing you didn't get engaged to Emma. She's completely lost it. You don't know." Yesterday, the Hart family publicly announced that Emma isn't their biological daughter. She went and rammed her car right into the Hart family's front gate, nearly giving Mr. and Mrs. Hart a heart attack. I took a sip of my drink, a deep sense of irony in my eyes. Emma had truly been spoiled. The Hart family had raised her for so many years to avoid gossip and ensure she'd be taken care of for life. Now she'd handed them the perfect excuse to sever ties with her publicly. However, I set aside thoughts of Emma and focused on what was more pressing. "Mike, stop calling me Ethan." "I'll keep calling you that," Mike said with a mischievous grin. "You've always been the golden child in my dad's eyes, the one I've been compared to all my life. Do you know how many beatings I've taken because of you? I'm just doing this to annoy you, Ethan." Ethan, call me that again and I won't include you in my next investment," I said with an unchanging expression. "No, bro, I'm sorry," Mike immediately wailed. "I have no idea what my dad is thinking, making me meet a 30 million investment target every year, and I can only make a profit. No losses. He knows I'm not cut out for this. Isn't having my brother enough?" I glanced at him, watching him play the fool in front of me. There are hardly any true heirs of wealthy families who are genuinely foolish like Emma. Mike isn't incompetent, nor is he unwilling. He just can't touch the big piece of the Lee family's pie. He's 10 years younger than his brother Alex, who has already gained the full approval of the Lee family's board of directors. Mike couldn't possibly compete with Alex, and any attempt might lead to a fraternal rivalry that could destabilize the entire family. So from the moment Mike came of age, his father set annual targets for him, partly to develop his personal abilities and partly to help him accumulate some capital. In case Alex inherits the family business, Mike wouldn't be left without options. Mike is smart enough to create an image of a useless playboy to avoid making his brother wary of him. All right, drop the act. Over the years, how much have you made? I bet even your dad doesn't know. Hee, it's all thanks to you, Master Ethan, guiding me. Mike said thick-skinned, I'm going abroad. I need to take control of my family's assets there ASAP. I said as I downed my drink. While I'm out of the country, you must keep me updated on the domestic market trends and the movements of those other families. I don't trust anyone else. Mike grew serious as well. Got it. My thoughts returned to the present as I looked down at her, clinging to my pant leg, refusing to let go. I called Mr. Hart directly, but he refused to come. In the end, he sent Ryu instead. Ryu slapped her twice across the face, and only then did Emma, with a look of fear, follow him out. Before leaving, Ryu shot me a vicious glare, warning me not to seduce his wife. I was left speechless. After Emma left, I immediately called Mike. These past few years, with me being abroad, I had too many things to deal with and worry about, so I hadn't paid any attention to Emma. Hey, Ethan, what's up? What's going on with Emma now? Mike was taken aback when he heard the name. She came to see you? Yeah. I tugged at my tie in frustration and sighed. She was holding onto my pant leg, saying she was giving me another chance. Ha 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 ha. I could hear Mike's boisterous laughter through the phone. Ethan, I can't believe you're dealing with this. Shut up. Okay, I'll stop laughing. I'll send you her details right away. Within a couple of minutes, I received the information Mike had on Emma from the past few years. Initially, after calling off our engagement, Emma caused a huge scene at the Hart family, forcing them to sever ties with her completely. After that, she went ahead and married Ryu. At first, Emma didn't mind. She sold off her luxury items, jewelry, handbags, which was more than enough for her and Ryu to live on. Ryu sweet-talked her into buying him a small apartment. And she even brought his mother from the countryside to live with them. But Emma had always been extravagant, and Ryu and his mother were shamelessly leeching off her. Neither of them worked, and in less than 6 months, Emma had sold off everything she could. By then, Emma was heavily pregnant and had no choice but to turn to the Hart family for help. The Hart family had been searching far and wide for their real daughter, and when Emma found out, she made a thoughtless remark, saying their daughter was probably dead somewhere and that they should just take her back and at least she could take care of Mr. and Mrs. Hart in their old age. This almost sent Mrs. Hart, who was desperate to find her daughter, back to the hospital. So Emma was left empty-handed and was thrown out by the Hart family. As for her loving husband, Ryu, once he realized the Hart family had completely abandoned Emma, his attitude toward her changed entirely. When Emma returned home, Ryu and his mother initially greeted her with smiles, but when they saw she hadn't brought back any money, their faces immediately turned cold. Emma, oblivious, tried to cry on Ryu's shoulder about the Hart family's heartlessness, but Ryu pushed her away and went straight to his room. Ryu's mother also made a sarcastic remark. Oh dear, so you don't even have a family to go back to? You're just an orphan now. From that day on, Ryu's mother started ordering Emma around to do housework. But Emma, being the spoiled princess she was, couldn't stand it and ended up having a huge fight with Ryu's mother. When Ryu came back and saw Emma arguing with his mother, he didn't ask any questions. He just slapped her twice across the face. Who gave you the right to talk back to my mom? How dare you hit me? Emma was in shock and tried to slap Ryu back in her fury. But as a pregnant woman, she was no match for Ryu. He grabbed her hand and slapped her twice more. I'll hit you again. I thought I married into a wealthy family, but it turns out you're just a fake. You couldn't even bring in a single cent. So why are you still so proud of yourself? My mom asking you to do housework is a sign of respect. How dare you disobey her? I'll beat you to death. Emma ran away from home. How ironic. She looked down on us commoners for the sake of her so-called love. Yet, because she failed to bring back any money, she was repeatedly abused by the husband she adored. First, she returned to the Hart family, apologizing and begging for forgiveness, hoping to be accepted back, but she didn't even make it through the front door. She was chased away immediately. Next, she, with her pregnant belly, sought out her former friends, hoping they would take her in for a while. However, during their time together, Emma had always acted superior, leveraging her status as a member of the Hart family. Though they called themselves sisters, she treated them like mere followers, so no one was willing to help her. Those with better manners made up excuses to refuse her, while the less tactful ones directly ridiculed her with cutting remarks, almost causing Emma to go into early labor out of anger. The most cunning one pretended to feel sorry for her, coaxed Emma into pouring out her grievances while wiping away tears, then turned around and spread her story, exaggerated and full of mockery. Emma was completely humiliated and had no face left to seek help from anyone in their circle. I heard she tried to find me, but by that time I was already abroad, so she ended up with nothing. After wandering around for several days, with nowhere else to go, Emma had no choice but to return home. What greeted her, of course, was another round of beatings. From then on, the Hart family's little princess seemed to have her pride broken. Under Ryu and his mother's abuse, she began to learn how to serve others. She often ended up with bruises and a swollen face, but outwardly she still tried to save face, pretending that Ryu was good to her. It wasn't until she was about to give birth that Ryu and his mother started treating her a little better. "This belly is so big, it must be a big grandson," Ryu's mother would say every day, but Emma's first child turned out to be a girl. I didn't need to see the details to know what happened next because she didn't produce a son. Ryu and his mother treated Emma even worse. They made her start working before she had even finished her postpartum recovery. Emma tried to run away twice more, but she had no survival skills. Once she managed to get a job as a cashier at a supermarket. But after only a few days, Ryu dragged her back home by her hair. Soon, she had a second child, another daughter. The two daughters not only nearly broke Emma, but also completely drained Ryu and his mother's patience for her. At one point, Ryu even broke her ribs. I closed the file. I thought to myself, is this Emma's so-called love? How utterly laughable. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Hey, honey, are you home yet?" "I'm home." A clear, gentle voice answered on the other end of the line. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Still concerned. All good, don't worry." Feeling a bit more at ease, I said, "Okay, make sure to let your parents know that I'll visit in a few days to discuss our wedding." "All right, got it." I hung up the phone, a smile playing on my lips. 3 years have passed, and I, Ethan, am finally about to step into the so-called grave of marriage. I thought I wouldn't see Emma again. But 3 days later, at a Hart family banquet, she somehow sneaked in. She was dressed like a middle-aged housewife, standing out awkwardly among the guests at such an event. At the time, I was discussing future investment directions with Mike. "Miss, may I see your invitation?" "You can't enter the banquet hall without one." We suddenly heard a waiter questioning her. So we turned around out of curiosity. We saw a group of waiters surrounding Emma, trying to escort her out. "I'm Miss Hart," she shouted at the top of her lungs. "I'm here to see Ethan." All eyes in the room immediately turned toward me. Emma spotted me as well and hurriedly tried to rush over. Ethan, I came to see you." The waiters held her back and looked at me. With a sigh, I nodded and they finally let Emma come over. She rushed up to me, trying to embrace me, but I quickly stepped aside. "What are you here for this time?" I asked, genuinely curious why she was so persistent in finding me. "Stop pretending, Ethan. I know you can't forget me, that you still love me. These past few years, you've ignored me, which was really too much. But if you apologize and show a better attitude, I might be willing to forgive you." She smoothed her hair. "I'm willing to give up the first two worthless girls I had. but this baby should be a boy. You'll have to take care of him as if he were your own son, and I've had enough of having children. This will be my last one, and after this, I'm getting my tubes tied. Don't expect me to have any more for you. After we get married, you'll need to give me shares in the Lee Corporation as compensation. And lastly, she added, gritting her teeth, you need to get rid of Ryu and his mother, or I won't marry you. She went on with her monologue, not giving me a chance to speak. When she finally finished, I said with exasperation, Emma, what makes you think I would ever marry you? Do you even realize what you look like right now? You've already had 2 kids, and you're carrying another one. What? Do you think I'm some kind of fool who enjoys being humiliated? And why should the Lee family risk extinction for you? Has Ryu eaten away at your brain? I was still trying to be somewhat polite with her, but she remained stubborn. Stop pretending, Ethan. I've heard everything. You're planning to marry into the Hart family. You're going to marry their daughter. Sophia told me everything. Sophia was the friend who had betrayed her before. That's right. Ethan is going to marry my daughter from the Hart family. Mr. Hart's voice suddenly rang out, and everyone turned to see him and Mrs. Hart slowly descending the stairs, each holding one arm of a young woman. The young woman had a graceful figure and delicate features, wearing a simple yet elegant designer dress that made her look even more refined. Ethan is marrying my biological daughter, Isabella Hart. Emma looked at the 3 of them in disbelief, watching as her former parents carefully held another girl close. Isabella walked slowly up to me and took my arm. I looked at Emma and asked, do you understand now? No, no way. I am the Hart family's daughter. Emma suddenly broke down, holding her head and screaming, Dad, Mom, I'm your daughter. We've lived together for so many years. Mr. Hart snorted angrily. If it wasn't for your real father swapping you with Isabella, we wouldn't have been separated from our own daughter for so many years. And you still have the nerve to show up here. In a fit of madness, Emma tried to attack Isabella. I frowned and, disregarding the fact that she was pregnant, pushed her away. She stumbled, but fortunately didn't fall. I sighed in relief. The security guards who had rushed in quickly grabbed her. She looked at me in despair. Ethan, do you really not care about all the years we've known each other? Can't you help me just this once? Even if you only pretend to marry me, I can't survive anymore. She screamed at me, but I felt no sympathy. Emma, from childhood until now, I've done more than enough for you behind the scenes. I, Ethan, can say with a clear conscience that I've fulfilled my duty to you. You chose to call off the engagement yourself. You never considered how your actions would hurt the Hart family or me. You were stubborn and ignored all our warnings. So you deserve to pay for your choices. My voice was calm, without the slightest hint of emotion. Emma finally realized the truth. Ethan, you never loved me, did you? Emma finally realized the truth. Ethan, you never loved me, did you? Correct. I answered without hesitation. Emma was dragged out by security, and although everyone had been thoroughly entertained by the drama, the party resumed as planned. Mr. Hart, full of pride, stood on the stage and addressed everyone. Everyone, the purpose of this banquet hosted by the Hart family is to announce that I, Peter Hart, have finally found my daughter. Isabella Hart, my youngest daughter, is formally introduced to you all today. The woman beside him gave a slight bow and said, Hello everyone, I'm Isabella and I'm very happy to be back with my parents. I'm also glad that you can witness our reunion. I've just returned, so there's still much I need to learn, and I hope you'll all be patient with me in the future. The audience erupted in applause. Mike leaned over and whispered, Wow, she doesn't look like someone who's just been reunited with her family. She's a perfect lady. Emma can't even compare. How did you manage to win her over, Ethan? I shot him a smug look. I met Isabella at my overseas company. She had just graduated with a PhD from a top university abroad and had been hired by our HR department at a high salary to serve as the company's CEO. The first time I saw her, she seemed familiar, but I didn't think much of it. As we worked together, I gradually became attracted to her outstanding personal abilities and her bold yet cautious approach to business. After we started dating, I learned that she was actually an orphan, abandoned at the door of a welfare home as a child, later adopted by a single woman. Her adoptive mother was also an independent and accomplished woman. She raised Isabella and, after she grew up, took her abroad, where they started traveling the world. To this day, her mother is still out there enjoying life, who knows where. Given Isabella's resemblance to Mrs. Hart, I began to suspect something and had Mike discreetly obtain some of Mr. and Mrs. Hart's DNA samples for me. At the time, Mike thought I was planning something shady and spent half a day trying to talk me out of it, saying that karma would come for me if I went through with it. When it was confirmed that Isabella was indeed the Hart family's daughter, I didn't rush to reunite them. I first spent over a year building a relationship with Isabella before bringing her back home during this trip. After all, who doesn't have a few personal considerations? Heh. As I looked at Isabella on stage, I couldn't help but feel proud. She was first the top executive at the Lee family's company, then my beloved girlfriend, and only lastly, the Hart family's daughter. The order of these roles was crucial for the harmony of our future marriage. Oh man, my girlfriend is gorgeous. Emma went mad. She killed Ryu because her third child turned out to be yet another daughter. When Ryu found out, he decided she should start selling herself, cursing her furiously. You're a worthless woman who can't even produce a son. What else are you good for besides selling yourself? I bet no one would even want you. After giving birth to 3 useless girls, you're ruined, damn it. Your only selling point now is that you used to be a Hart family member. That very night, Emma took a kitchen knife and hacked Ryu to death. The next morning, when Ryu's mother opened the door, she found Emma sitting in a pool of blood, looking up at her with a smile. Ryu's mother screamed, and Emma even tried to kill her too. Fortunately, Ryu's mother didn't faint and managed to escape. When the police arrested Emma, they found that she had completely lost her mind. No matter what they asked, she wouldn't speak. She just kept laughing in a chilling way. They even called me, along with Mr. and Mrs. Hart, to try to get her to talk. It was no use. She no longer recognized anyone. Having had 3 children in 3 years, and with her body worn down by constant abuse and torment, she was already on the brink of collapse. The police didn't dare keep her in a regular prison. In the end, Mr. and Mrs. Hart paid to have her sent to the best psychiatric hospital in Yen City. Mr. Hart's anger finally subsided, and he even started to feel a bit of regret. Sigh, Mr. Hart lamented. Maybe I was too harsh. Emma's 3 daughters were thrown out by Ryu's mother and sent to an orphanage. The eldest child wasn't even 3 years old yet. These girls were the most innocent and pitiable ones in all of this. Isabella and I discussed it and decided to anonymously sponsor the orphanage, focusing on these 3 girls, to at least ensure they were well cared for. A year and a half later, Isabella and I got married. After our wedding, we had a daughter. Not long after she was born, my parents practically snatched her from us, holding her so tightly they wouldn't let go. They didn't even want to give her back to us, and even the nanny we hired to help with the baby was taken away by them. The Hart family also gave up on the idea of taking a child to carry on the Hart family name. After everything they had been through, Mr. and Mrs. Hart became more open-minded and just wanted to make up for lost time with Isabella. Isabella asked me if I wanted another child, and I thought about it for a moment before declining. Having a baby is too hard on you. I gently touched her stomach, where the marks of childbirth still lingered, and it pained me every time I saw them. I'm already the luckiest father, Isabella said. You gave me the best pre- and postnatal care. Most parents have a much harder time, I mused. Do you think we could create a project that offers integrated care for women before and after childbirth, providing safe and scientific services? Isabella playfully tapped my head. All you think about is investments and projects. We can discuss that later. But if we really don't have more children, what will happen to the Lee family legacy? I looked at her in surprise. What do you mean? We have a daughter, don't we? Isabella suddenly burst into laughter, and it took her a while to stop. "What's so funny?" I asked. "Puzzled." "Nothing," she replied, still chuckling. Epilogue. "Hey, honey, Mike asked me to go out for a drink. Is that okay? He's still single. But you're married now, and he's always asking you to go out." I'm starting to get jealous. "Oh, come on. He's almost 30 and still single. Serves him right. He's always acting so carefree. What girl would like that? You know, I think he might be going through something. Lately, he's been drinking alone a lot and keeps asking me how I managed to win you over." "Really? Then go ahead and make sure to bring back the gossip." "Will do, honey. One kiss, moi."
I'm not a big horror game person. The last Resident Evil I played was 7. And bit of a bitch. I talk fast to pronounce words properly. Oh shit, did the song request break? Did it break again?
Gunslinger, that might be my issue also. That's why whenever I'm typing, like whenever I'm at work and I'm typing, I miss 4 or 5 words. And y'all are like, "Oh, he's having a stroke." And I'm like, no, I just thinking way too fast.
7 was not really all that great, but this one mixes the two playstyles. First part is going slow, but it gets better. Okay, I gotta put on Katy Perry.
Jay, just hold on for like 30 seconds. You don't want to miss this, Jay. I promise you.
Why is Firework not in her top played song? There it is. And then after this, I'll fix the song request.